You walk into a room and the first thing you do isn't look around, it's scan. You're reading faces before anyone says a word. You notice the tight smile, the quiet sigh, the way someone's sitting just a little too still, and in seconds, without even thinking about it, you've already adjusted yourself. Your voice gets softer, or your jokes get lighter, or you just disappear into the background completely. You're not doing this on purpose. You're doing it because somewhere along the way, you learned that your safety depended on it. Most people call this being intuitive or empathetic or just really good at reading people. And sure, maybe it is all those things, but it's also something else. It's hypervigilance. It's the survival skill you developed when you were too young to even know you were developing it. Because when you grow up in a home where emotional weather changes without warning, you become the thermometer. Not because you wanted the job, because you needed it to survive. You're not imagining this. That constant scanning, that mental checklist you run through every time you're around certain people, that's real, and it's exhausting. Because while everyone else gets to just exist in a room, you're working, you're calculating, you're 3 steps ahead trying to predict what mood is coming next so you can brace for it or fix it or at least stay out of its way.
Here's what happened. When you were little, maybe the house was calm one minute and tense the next. Maybe a parent's mood could turn on nothing. A bad day at work, a phone call, traffic, something you said wrong or didn't say at all. And because you were a kid, you didn't have the tools to understand that their mood wasn't about you. You just knew that when they were upset, the whole house felt different, unsafe, unpredictable. So you started watching. You learned to read the signs, the footsteps that were a little too heavy, the door that closed a little too hard, the silence that stretched just long enough to mean something. You became fluent in a language most kids never have to learn, the language of emotional regulation that should have been handled by adults, but somehow became your responsibility instead. And here's the thing nobody tells you. When you grow up like this, your brain gets wired differently. Not broken, just different. Your nervous system learns to stay alert because relaxing felt dangerous. Your mind learns to prioritize other people's feelings because your own didn't seem to matter as much. Or maybe they mattered too much, and expressing them made things worse. So you learn to put them away, to focus outward instead of inward, to become so good at reading everyone else that you forgot how to read yourself.
That's why even now, as an adult, you can walk into your friend's house and immediately know something's off. You can sense tension in a work meeting before anyone's even spoken. You can feel the shift in energy when someone's smile doesn't match their eyes. And everyone thinks it's a gift. They say things like, "You're so perceptive," or "You always know what I need," or "I don't know how you do it." But you know the truth. It's not a gift. It's a scar that learned to function as a skill. Because the cost of being this aware is that you're never fully present. Part of you is always monitoring, always assessing, always preparing for something to go wrong. You can't just enjoy a family dinner without tracking who's getting irritated. You can't relax at a party without making sure everyone else is okay first. You can't even rest in your own home sometimes because you're still listening for the signs, the tone, the energy, the shift. And the worst part? You don't even notice you're doing it anymore. It's automatic, like breathing. You've been the emotional thermometer for so long that you don't know how to be anything else. Even when you're with people who are safe. Even when you're with people who would never put that responsibility on you. You still do it, because your body remembers what your mind is trying to forget. Let's talk about what this actually looks like in your everyday life. You're the person who texts back immediately because you know what it feels like to be left waiting and wondering if someone's upset. You're the one who apologizes first, even when you're not sure what you did wrong, because making peace feels safer than letting conflict sit. You're the one who changes plans last minute if it means keeping someone else happy, because you learned early that your needs were negotiable, but theirs weren't. You're the person who can't say no without feeling guilty, who over-explains everything because you're trying to manage someone's reaction before they even have it, who rehearses conversations in your head 100 times because you need to predict every possible response, who feels responsible for other people's emotions even when logic tells you that doesn't make sense. And in relationships, romantic or otherwise, this pattern shows up even stronger. You're drawn to people who need you, not because you're codependent, but because being needed feels familiar. It feels like love because that's what love looked like when you were learning what love was. Someone needed you to be calm when they were chaos, to be steady when they were struggling, to absorb their bad day so they didn't have to sit with it alone. So now you find yourself in dynamics where you're always the one checking in, always the one making sure everyone's okay, always the one who notices when something's wrong and tries to fix it. And people love you for it. They lean on you. They call you your rock, your safe place. And you smile and take it on because at least this version of the pattern feels like choice. At least now you're appreciated for it instead of just expected to do it. But underneath, you're tired. You're so tired of being strong for everyone else, of having your emotional availability be the thing people value most about you, of feeling like if you stopped monitoring and managing and maintaining, everything would fall apart. Or worse, that people would leave because the only version of you they know is the one who's always okay, always available, always tuned into them. Here's what you need to understand. This isn't your fault. You didn't choose to become this way. You adapted, you survived. And the skills you developed, the awareness, the sensitivity, the ability to read people, those aren't bad things. They've probably helped you in a lot of ways. Made you a good friend, a caring partner, someone people trust. But they came at a cost, and that cost was learning to abandon yourself in favor of everyone else. Because when you're constantly scanning other people's emotional states, you're not checking in with your own. When you're always adjusting yourself to fit the room, you lose touch with who you actually are when nobody's watching. When you spend years making yourself smaller or quieter or easier to make someone else comfortable, you forget that you're allowed to take up space too. And the truth is, not every room needs a thermometer. Not every person needs you to manage their emotions. Not every silence needs to be filled or fixed or feared. Sometimes people are just quiet. Sometimes they're in a bad mood and it has nothing to do with you. Sometimes tension exists and it's not your job to resolve it. But your nervous system doesn't know that yet because it learned something different. It learned that emotional chaos was dangerous, that unpredictability meant instability, that if you didn't stay alert, something bad might happen. And even though you're not in that environment anymore, even though you're safe now, your body hasn't caught up. It's still running the old program, still trying to protect you from a threat that isn't there anymore. So what do you do with this? How do you start to unlearn a pattern that's been running for decades? First, you notice it. You start paying attention to when you're scanning, when you're adjusting, when you're prioritizing someone else's comfort over your own. Not to judge it, not to shame yourself for it, just to see it, to recognize that it's happening. Then you start asking yourself a question. Whose emotion am I managing right now? And is it actually my responsibility? Because most of the time, it's not. Most of the time, other adults are capable of managing their own feelings. They don't need you to fix them or predict them or protect them from discomfort. And more importantly, you don't need to sacrifice your own peace to maintain theirs. You start practicing something that probably feels uncomfortable at first. You let people be in their feelings without rushing in to change them. You let silence exist without filling it. You let someone be upset without making it your problem to solve. And you notice that the world doesn't end, that people are okay, that relationships don't fall apart just because you're not constantly working to hold them together. You also start turning that monitoring inward. You check in with yourself the way you've been checking in with everyone else. You ask yourself how you're feeling, what you need, what you actually want instead of what you think you should want. And you practice listening to those answers instead of dismissing them. This doesn't mean you stop caring about people. It doesn't mean you become selfish or cold or disconnected. It means you stop setting yourself on fire to keep everyone else warm. It means you recognize that being aware of others is beautiful, but abandoning yourself in the process is not. It means you learn that you can be empathetic without being responsible, intuitive without being invasive, caring without being depleted. Healing looks like walking into a room and not immediately scanning it for danger. It looks like being around family and not feeling like you need to manage the energy. It looks like letting people have bad days without taking it personally or trying to fix it. It looks like realizing that you were never meant to be the family thermometer. You were meant to be a child, and that job was taken from you before you even knew what it was. You're not broken for being this way. You're not too sensitive or too aware or too much. You're just carrying a survival skill that you don't need anymore. And slowly, gently, you can start to put it down. You can start to trust that you're safe, even when you're not monitoring, that you're loved, even when you're not performing, that you're enough, even when you're not working to earn your place in the room. Because the truth is, you've been enough this whole time. You just never got the chance to believe it. Like usual, if you like and want more psychology videos that explain your personality, help me to hit that subscribe button, because the next video might reveal something about yourself you've always felt but never had the words to express. Hope to see you on the next video. Thanks for your support.